Hello class, how are you guys doing? Haven't seen you in forever. I was excited to see your picture, your composite picture that had everyone's beautiful, handsome nursing picture on that composite picture. You're almost there. You've got a few more tests to go and you'll be taking your finals and getting ready to graduate. I know that your clinical experiences are limited, and everyone, no matter what school you're going to, is going to take that into consideration when you're hired and in your orientation and that sort of thing. So I want to just talk to you about Chapter 17 PVR for just a few minutes, okay? As you can tell, these chapters are very different than what you've been studying. This is going to get you ready to actually work as a nurse on the floor, thinking about the future a little bit when you are working as a charge nurse, possibly working with your peers, nursing organizations that you might want to join, and that sort of thing. So when you're looking at Chapter 17, at the beginning of the chapter, in your key terms, I want you to be sure and understand what a mission statement is, the definition of management, leadership, situational leadership, and what assigning and delegating means. So first off, let's look for a few minutes at types of leadership. And in your Chapter 17, in box 17.1, it talks about different types of leaders: autocratic, laissez-faire, and democratic leaders. And when you think about a autocratic leader, they think of being in charge, large and in charge, and they like it that way, and they like having the power of that. Laissez-faire leader is wanting to make sure that they also are a leader, but they want to make everyone happy. So they're going to lead, but they're not as concerned with strictly following the policies like your autocratic leader would be. They want to make sure the nursing staff is happy while trying to follow the policies, okay? And a democratic leader uses some styles of both, but also takes into consideration what's going on and figuring out how to do their leadership style based on that. So look at that box 17.1, the different types of leaders, and think of your situational leadership leading as involving all of these different styles of leading, plus looking at what is going on in the department or in the work setting and changing the leadership style based on what's going on. So that sounds like that would be the goal of being a leader, is to be that type of leader. But really your autocratic, laissez-faire, democratic leadership, they all have benefits to them. So blending those is a very good thing to do. But, you know, you already know probably what kind of leader you are, just from past experiences in high school, experiences you've had here at TCAT, members of clubs, church activities, that sort of thing. And if you feel like you want to change your style of leadership, you know, you can work on that. And I think really as a nurse, you need to learn to be assertive. And we've talked about that in a chapter before with PVR. But being assertive is important. You need to stand up for yourself and ask questions definitely in your orientation, and make sure that you get the information you need. And if you are not feeling like you are getting adequate information, ask for clarification, ask for more opportunities, and that would be a good thing to do. All right. I would also like for you to look at Chapter 17 about life skills to control stress, creating a less stressful work environment. And this is on page 243. So life skills to avoid stress, that's the same as they've always been. About getting enough sleep, eating healthy, Stress and relaxation exercises, whether it be you like to ride your bike or do yoga or whatever, things like that. Creating a less stressful work environment, you could also pull into that being organized for your job. Um, like this evening, making sure that you pull together everything that you need ahead of time. Obviously, if you need to go to clinical tomorrow morning, of course, that's going to be very important. And organizing your work environment. So let's say, for example, I used to work on the OB floor in Mom Baby. Organizing myself for my day. Obviously, I wanted to get plenty of sleep. We worked a 12-hour shift. We were running all the time. So I wanted to make sure I had of course, my uniform ready and my comfortable shoes, snacks to eat during the day. You know, you've got to prepare. You may not have a opportunity to go and buy something for lunch. So find something in your kitchen and stick it in a bag. You know, stick some bottles of water in there to take with you. Also, you may need to get some kind of tote or Tupperware case or something like that. Always make sure you have pens and pencils and sticky notes and highlighters and things like that. You know, inside of ours also, we had to have a measuring tape for measuring the baby's head girth and abdominal girth, and reflex hammer for checking the mom's reflexes, stethoscope, of course, you know, anything like that that you needed particularly for your job was very important. We used a certain type of S-bar, so I wanted to make sure when I first got to work that when I got report, and we're going to talk about that too next time we get together, but when I got report, organizing your S-bar, you know, folding it the way you want to fold it, or making yourself a list of things to do and that sort of thing, but just getting yourself organized. Also, if you are in charge, or if you have a good manager that's in charge of you in your floor, then they need to create a less stressful work environment by, you know, number one, the assignment that they give you, not giving you more than you can handle with your patient load would be wonderful if they can make sure and watch the acuity level of your patients. Also making sure that you get the breaks that you're supposed to take, lunch break that you're supposed to take, that you get to leave when you need to leave, handling any conflicts that arise, making sure that they don't give you, well, I mentioned acuity, but they're not giving you all of the higher level acuity patients to take care of. And that is on page 243 about creating a less stressful work environment. Also, the job description of a charge nurse. Be sure and look at that on page 252. Job description of a charge nurse. And I know it sounds crazy to think about that you may be a charge nurse in 6 months or a year, but it could very well happen. So if you are in the situation where you need to be a charge nurse, there's a lot of duties that you have, and they're all listed out on page 252. But there's a lot of things that you wouldn't think about if you're a charge nurse. You have to make sure if, well, first off, when you'll get there earlier than everybody else, and you have to make your assignments. So you have to choose which nurse is going to take care of which patients for the day. So you have to think of who's a new orientee, who's more experienced, which patient might need more one-on-one care. So you have to take that into consideration. So you're going to make your assignments. Also, you have to make assignments about other things. Every day you have to think about, in case there was some kind of a situation that arose on your floor, like, God forbid, a fire, tornado warning, you know, something like that. Who is going to be in charge of shutting the doors if there is a fire? Who is going to be in charge of looking down hallway A and making sure the doors are closed? Who is going to make sure of going to door C and making sure that it's closed, and things like that. Also looking at anything that requires being plugged up, batteries charged, the refrigerator is cold, where the insulin's kept, and things like that. So there will be duties like that that you have to either do or assign. And that is in part of your chapter 2 about, chapter 17 is in the chapter also about assigning. So, those are things that you'll assign to the nurses too for duties. You don't have to do it all yourself. Checking the crash cart, making sure that it's plugged up, making sure when they turn the power button on that it appears to be working. That's very important. Things like that. Also, you may want to have a huddle time or a time during the day when your team gets together and you just ask everyone how it's going, or let everyone voice their opinion about something you guys need to talk about. Or you may get something from administration that you need to discuss, like Christmas is coming up and they need ideas on what would you be interested in doing for a party or for a bonus or something like that. Money, right? That would be wonderful. Okay. All right, assigning and delegating. We talked a little bit about making assignments to your fellow nurses or the nurses that are working underneath you if you are a charge nurse, but also look at table 17.1, delegating, on page 260, and examples of duties not to delegate on page 266. So assigning and delegating on page 260, examples of duties not to delegate on page 266. So you will have nursing assistants working underneath you, and certainly you can have interventions that need to be done for your patients that they can safely do. That could be, for example, helping your patient walk to the bathroom, turning your patient, feeding your patient, making sure they have fluids at the bedside, checking their vital signs, very important. And, that may be something routinely that they do at, a couple of different times during the shift or during the day. But, for example, Mrs. Smith's in room 13. If Mrs. Smith had a blood pressure elevation that day that you had to call the doctor and get an order for, then personally I might not want to delegate to my nursing assistant to recheck her blood pressure. I might feel more comfortable if I recheck it myself if she had a problem with that. Also, assessment, you wouldn't want them to be involved in assessing your patient. If Mrs. Smith had some edema, then you would want to check her legs yourself. You wouldn't want to rely on your nursing assistant to tell you, oh, she has mild edema, she's fine. You might want to go and check her yourself and find out, oh, she has 2+ edema, So assessment of patient, no. But there are some routine tasks, and as they show proficiency, according to your hospital policy, they may be able to be assigned or be delegated other tasks as well. All right, so if you didn't catch it in the beginning, definitions, mission statement, management, leadership, situational leadership, assigning and delegating, types of leadership in box 17.1, core knowledge needed for leadership. I don't think I mentioned that. On page 238, be sure and look at that. Core knowledge needed for leadership, page 238. Life skills to control stress, creating a less stressful work environment on page 243. Charge nurse job description, page 252. Assigning and delegating, page 260. And examples of duties not to delegate, page 266. Certainly read through your entire chapter, but these are particular areas that I would like for you to study. Okay? Now, let's talk about your portfolios for just a moment, all right? You do need to start working on your resume. And you have examples and instructions in chapter 18, I think it is, on creating your resume. As you start to think about the next few weeks, I saw even, I think, a Facebook post today about a possible office that was looking for a nurse. So it's coming up. You guys are going to be sending out resumes. So start pulling together information with current, addresses, making sure you have your driver's license, social security card handy. You won't be putting that on your resume, but have it handy. You'll need it if you get a job. Also, once you get your license, of course, you'll have to have a copy of that all the time. But for resume, also jobs that you've had. Well, you might think, gee, I really haven't had that many jobs that they might be interested in on a resume. Well, guess what? Even if you worked at Sonic and you worked at Sonic for 3 years and you were a loyal employee and you had the longevity of working there for that period of time, that's important to put on your resume because that shows, hey, he stuck around and he did his job at Sonic and he even won Employee of the Month one time. So things like that would be important to put down. Of course, your educational history is important, also listing on your resume. And also you may have a few bullet points, and you've got the examples in your book about clubs you have participated in. If you were president of Tri Delta sorority at your high school, so I just made that up, that's not really one. Put that on your resume. If you were secretary of the hunting club, put that on your resume. Things like that. If you are involved in the choral group at your church and you toured with them through Switzerland, put that. Gee, that would be fun. Also, I think it's important to put down on your resume if you speak another language. Some of you guys are very proficient in other things as well. You're very proficient in computer, something like that. Maybe you're an artist, anything like that, that would also show other qualities that you have for your future employer. Also, in your portfolio, you want to pull together, as I mentioned in the email, certificates. If you had perfect attendance, even in high school or in some college, other degrees. Some of you guys already have an associate degree in something else. So obviously, be sure to put that on your resume and include the certificate if you have that in your portfolio. Your portfolio is going to be a folder or a thin notebook, and you're going to have page protectors in there where you're going to put this information. And Ms. Rojas and I are going to grade your portfolios for a test grade. Also, as part of your portfolio, you need to start asking for recommendation letters for jobs. So include a couple of those in there as well. And if I can think of anything else that you need to put in there, I believe I'm leaving some things out, but that can get you started on your portfolio. Like I said, it is a test grade, and it's also something you can use. So you can have it in your hand when you go and talk to your employer. You've obviously had to fill out an online job application and probably submitted an online resume, but you'll have that portfolio right there. And they can flip through it if they like, and then they can see also, oh, you are very involved in the cycling club in your community. That's great, something like that. So have your portfolio, and we'll start looking over those to get your grades done on those. Okay. Also, I am going to send you just a tiny bit of homework to do. So watch your email for that. And I hope you have a great Tuesday. Some of you are going to clinicals, I know. Hope you have a great experience there. So you'll be viewing this PowerPoint, tiny bit of homework, which is going to be answering an interview question for me, more than likely, and starting to put together your portfolio, looking up your definitions, making yourself a study guide for PVR Chapter 17 and 18 off of the topics that I gave you in this video. Thank you guys so much. Miss ya.